This podcast is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Out of the Ashes presents Missing Dad.
I might have ended up on the wrong side of the tracks if Pops wouldn't have pulled me back and said, yo.
Each episode is a thought-provoking interview with people across all walks of life to see how they were affected by missing key pieces in their relationship with their dad.
Told him as a youngster, he'll be the greatest man alive.
And now your hosts, Coley Harris and Omar Melton.
Welcome. It's been a long time. Welcome to another episode of Missing Dad. I'm your host, co-host Coley Harris.
I am also co-host Coley Harris.
Wait a minute, brother.
It's been a long time, ladies and gentlemen.
He don't know who he is.
A lot has changed. It has it been 3 years?
But yeah, about that since we shot our last episode.
Jeez. For those listening, this is Omar Melton, and we have a special guest with us today.
Like to introduce yourself, good brother?
Absolutely. Let me say first and foremost, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Ashandu La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah. To translate that means I bear witness that there's no God but Allah. And of course, Bismillah means in the name of Allah. My name is Dawud Muhammad. I'm honored to be here. It's a privilege to be here, and I'm ready to go.
Brother, why you talking so soft over there?
Oh, brother.
You see how I'm on this microphone, brother?
Okay, brother.
I'm adjust it a little bit for you, brother. I don't want it all in, but you can. This is the time where you can crowd it,
my
you know.
my humble apologies.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To the listening audience. I'll try to turn the volume up a little bit more.
Yeah.
Good brother, so the people can really hear me.
Yes, sir, brother.
And understand.
Yes, sir, brother.
Where I'm coming from.
We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I think before we jump into the interview, I think it's worth explaining what has taken place over the past 3 years. Would we call this season 2 of Missing Dad? Would this be a new season for us?
This season 2.
Season 2, Missing Dad.
This season 2, Missing Dad.
Think-
In case y'all just listening to it, we have a nice. I don't even know what to call it. We got a nice bit of video, a nice bit of podcast, hard-hitting podcast with content about fatherhood. That's probably, I would argue, some of the richest fatherhood content that is out.
For
Richest
sure.
content that was out.
For sure. You want to tell the people why we stopped for 3 years?
COVID-19.
COVID-19.
COVID-19, as we all know, it shut the world down. And, we did some interviews, right?
Mhm.
Some Zoom interviews, but nothing beats the live, the energy. The true energy, being around other human beings and talking about things, particularly with, a podcast such as ours, the topics that we talk about. So we had COVID-19, we came out of that, and, like everybody else, we had to adjust, pivoted, done some things and getting some things straightened out with us, and took on some new endeavors, and we are back.
Back in action, folks.
Okay. And it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good to
So-
be back,
Yeah.
man.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Man, we're gonna be here from sun up to sundown, brother. If I tell you my whole story, but let me commence. Let me start off, by saying that I'm here, because of I'm here because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me, with the opportunity to regain my freedom.
Right.
After serving almost 4 decades in the prison system. I call it the modern day slave plantation. We can get into that too.
Yeah.
You said almost 4 decades.
Yeah, my situation is a little different. It's a little you know, it's ironic, and it's contrary to most brothers that that came into the prison system. Of course, we talking about over 2 million, prisons or prisoners. I'm sorry,
Right.
that's in prison. So I'm not saying that my situation is unique, compared to some, but it's different.
Yeah.
If you allow me to somewhat elaborate, on, my circumstances, the question, well, you didn't ask the question. You made the comment. You said 38 years. It is a question. You said 38 years, right? Or
He had an inquisitive tone.
right.
So his tone can imply a question as well.
Yeah, and it like I came into the prison system.
How old were you?
Initially, I was 17.
Okay.
All right. My sentence actually started in the system in Maryland, the prison system in Maryland, in 1981. All
Okay.
right. At that time, I was back and forth up here in Delaware from Baltimore. That's where I was born and raised.
Right.
All right. Came up here a couple times, hustling, stealing, and robbing, and shoplifting, all that. Young, typical juvenile, right?
Right.
Got caught, and they sent me to Ferris Juvenile Facility here in
Right.
Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a little bit of rabbit in my blood. Let me clarify that. Rabbit means somebody that, see an opportunity to escape, they gone.
Trying to say you take off on them?
Yeah, take off, right? So I took off. From Ferris. They call it AWOL. And I got away, went back to Maryland, and I got caught up in some stuff down there. I'm laying back thinking I'm cool in Maryland. I'm in a joint in Maryland.
Right.
I get a letter from Delaware authorities saying, yeah, we need you to come up here. And, yeah, we need to deal with that situation, the AWOL escape joint, as well as the shoplifting, offensive touching, and some other, misdemeanor
Right.
stuff. So, winding down on my little bit in Maryland, they extradited me here in Delaware in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
When I got here, I'm thinking like, I'm gonna deal with this because it's nothing heavy, a little escape from juvenile and offensive touching and shoplifting and some other misdemeanor joints. So at the end of the day, I was sentenced. Actually, I took a plea. I took a plea to 18 months. All right, and at that time, 1982. The prison culture, was different, contrary to what you see today. It was really about survival of the fittest. The strikes I had against me and the odds as well was the fact that, I was from Baltimore and everybody was calling me B-More at the time. And when I got here, like the good brother said earlier, he's very inquisitive. I'm inquisitive. Of course, I want to know what's going on here. You know what I mean? I'm observing. I'm checking everything out. And I noticed, like, the facility, Smyrna, DOC, Department of Corrections, was wide open. All right. So for a young guy like me.
What you mean when you say wide open?
Okay,
what you mean by
let me
that?
get some clarity.
Well, let me ask a question too, just to piece together the timeline in my head. So you were 17 when you were in Ferris. You got away. You went to Baltimore.
Right.
And then you got jammed up in Baltimore.
Yeah,
and they brought you
up.
back up here.
Right.
When you came back, did you go back to Ferris or did you go to Smyrna?
Nah, they sent me straight to Ferris.
Okay.
I went straight to Ferris. Now, what was your question? Oh, the clarity on the wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you was you?
So-
I think he trying
Yeah,
to
you
sort out the time, get the time.
All right. So I came. So I was extradited, right, back here in Delaware in 1982.
Right.
I remember it was August 1982. All right. and I went straight to Smyrna. Gander Hill wasn't up.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Gander Hill didn't even exist.
Right.
All right. So I went to pretrial. You know, that's where they hold you, you know, until you get sentenced. And when I used the term wide open, the security was relaxed. They didn't have no towels.
They had a what?
No, the shooting towels.
Oh,
They
the
had
tower,
No,
yeah.
they didn't have no towel. The gates was low. You know, everything was, it was like a country club. You know what I mean? Compared to most penitentiaries.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I don't think Smyrna at that time was considered a penitentiary because it was like maybe less than 1,000 people at that time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And anyway, fast forward. I gets there. You know, I'm from B-More. I know the ropes. I got convict mentality. You know what I mean? At least, you know, I thought anyway. But I was exposed. I was exposed to a lot of violence. You know, I knew guys in my circle that was in Maryland. You know, they didn't have no hesitation pulling the shank out, what they call it, you know, a knife shank, and putting work in. You know what I mean? So at an early age, I was exposed to that. And when I got here, my mentality was, I need to get me a shank.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I got to do what's necessary to protect myself, my manhood, you know, and everything else that, you know what I mean, that I considered, you know, to be, you know, part of my manhood.
Right.
You know what I mean? But what happened was, eventually they classified me. I got sentenced. I took the plea to the 18, and they classified me to C building. C building. Let me give you a little history.
That don't sound right.
Yeah. Look, watch this.
That don't sound right. Go ahead.
Watch this. They classified me to C building, which was called the Annex at that time. Prior to it's being called the Annex, it was called Max.
Right.
Now, this brother sitting next to me, your father, I know he heard a lot about C building.
I was in C building like that, but I knew that it was an old Max. It was a higher security.
Right. That's what Tyre in the Smyrna 5.
Yeah,
That's
it was a higher security. So I was wondering why you got sent over there with 18 months.
Wow. So anyway, actually, it wasn't just me. They had, you know, it was transitional. Right. So fast forward.
What year is this about?
This is 82.
Okay.
82, because that's when I got there.
Okay.
82. It didn't take long for them to run me through the classification.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Boom, boom, boom. So they put me in there. I didn't know anything about C building. I just know that it's a building that was housing, you know what I mean, prisoners or inmates. All right. So they put me in the cell with a brother named Ice, Steve Allen, dark-skinned brother, played basketball. He was over there in S1 with us. I had no idea who this brother was. You know what I mean? When we sat down and we talked, that was my cellmate. He revealed to me something that was it's crazy. You know, the brother was serving like 2 life sentences. You know what I mean? And he was in there for rape, kidnapping, and some other stuff, right? But it didn't impact me because, again, you know, I was already exposed in Maryland around different, you know, convicts, you know, serving time, you know what I mean, for violent offenses and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So, again, my defense mechanism is up. So regardless if you're serving life or not, you know, who are you? I don't care. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to make sure you respect who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? So fast forward, it didn't take long for me to get in an altercation there. C building, you know, C building at that time, it was a dark cloud, you know, over that building. Because the history of that building had so many, like, violent assaults. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, if it's not on the inmate, it's on the guard. You know, again, like I said, you know, I know the Smyrna Five. They was in that building, and you know, as this brother know, that they went through some stuff in that building with the officers, all right, the COs, all right, and you know, one thing led to another in their situation. I don't want to go into a lot of details about their situation, but I know that the Smyrna Five, you know, was in that building, and we can talk about that some other time. But not just that. When I was there, I witnessed a lot of stabbings, a lot of, you know, lock in the sock, bust heads, you know, closed door, you know, 2 inmates, you know, going at it, you know, do or die, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, automatically, that right there made my defense mechanism go way up, way up. And then you had rapists and you had inmates in there that was on some nonsense, violating, you know what I mean, other prisoners, if you weak, of course, you know what I mean? So being exposed, you know, to all this here, it made me impulsive. It didn't make me a thinker. That didn't really cause me to sit back and process everything. I wasn't mature enough to do that.
Yeah, I don't, you know what, Dawud, I just want to say, like, you know what I mean, situation like that, it's like now we understand, like, anybody, right,
of course,
who's under the threat of violence,
right,
in a situation, particularly being in a prison, it's a natural thing for you to defend yourself.
Absolutely.
But even psychologically, like now we understand with the brain science and with trauma and stuff like trauma heightens your awareness. It's going to have you on go.
Right.
You know what I mean? As you said with the youngest, you know what I mean? Now it's going to have you on go when you have these incidents of trauma and stuff like that.
Right.
And that's you know what I mean? That's the stuff what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I want to say this too, brother.
Yeah.
That if the situation in C building finally reached what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you know, when something clash or reach the point.
Yeah. Culmination, boiled over, you know what I mean? Culminated, boiling point, tipping point.
To the point where the guard was killed down there. In that building. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can actually share with you and the listening audience as far as, you know, the history of so many, you know, assaults. You know what I mean? So many sexual assaults. You know, went down in that building. But again, you know, I managed, unfortunately, to navigate, you know, out of that situation, despite the incident I got caught up in, which caused me a life sentence. You know what I mean? Like, wasn't thinking at all. I just react. Got into a little verbal altercation with another inmate. Things escalated. You know what I mean? So me not being mature enough at the time to like back up and think and look at the situation, you know what I mean, for what it is. You're not serving a lot of time. The man didn't physically, you know, put his hands on you, whatever. I'm on some, you know what I mean? You disrespect me, now I'm going to deal with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So fast forward, get into the altercation, you know, with the inmate. I had a shank, of course. Shanked the inmate, hit him once, right? He ran. He panicked. He noticed he got stabbed. He took off. You know what I'm saying? Right. So at that time, I was like, hey, you know what I mean? I guess he ain't want no smoke. Right. You know what I mean? And I mean, I didn't, at that time, I didn't really, you know, thought that the stabbing wound was so severe that he was going to die. So I didn't find out till the next, look, when they came to charge me, the detectives, reading me my rights, you know what I mean? I stuck to my guns like, I don't know what you're talking about. Because didn't nobody, again, let's go back to wide open. How the prison was wide open. No guards seen it. It was inmates that seen it.
Right.
The incident. All right. So when they told on me, they snatched me up, put me in the hole. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm gonna deal with this. I got assault. That's what I was thinking at the time. I got assault. Consequences, I'm gonna deal with it. But I didn't know until the next day, because they transferred me to the MSU, Max, across the street. I didn't know till the next day that my man's had died. Inmate asked the question, like he was like, yo, how did my man make out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God come through taking count. How the dude make out? He said he didn't make it. Now I'm tossing and turning all night trying to, you know what I mean?
Right.
So when the guard revealed that, it was like a ton of bricks that fell on me. Boom. Now how I'm gonna explain this to my mom, particularly, you know what I mean, as well as the family, but moms, how am I gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it got to her, my mom traveling all the way from Baltimore, you know, relying on her sister, of course, because she can't drive. So she come up here and look me in the eye like I'm looking you in your eye and I'm looking you in your eye and ask me, did you do it? No. Because I couldn't, you understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? I mean, like I seen the whole, you know, emotional, you know, expression, you know, on her face. I seen her demeanor. So I couldn't really just, you know what I mean? I couldn't just say, nah, yeah, mom, I did it. You know what I mean? But eventually she found out. You know what I mean? So that was devastating. But it was even more devastating for me, you know what I mean, to find out that brother didn't make it because of my impulsive, you know, reaction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what happened was, real quick, after maybe about a year after the incident, because it happened April 30th, 1983. So I stuck to my guns like trying to rumble this joint in court. But when the evidence came out, you know, inmates, you know, and some other people, you know what I mean, that knew about the situation, you know, they lined them up to testify against me. So my lawyer said, look, you can go to trial with this joint, but I'm going to tell you straight up, my man, that if you lose, right, there's two things that can happen. You'll get first, the consequences would be death, right, by hanging. This is in 1984, all right? So he said, or you'll get natural life in prison. At that time, I was mature enough to understand that Delaware's death penalty was real.
Right.
They was killing brothers. You understand what I'm saying? You know, and the brother told me, he said, Dawud, you can go to court you can go to trial with that. You know what I mean? If you really want to go to trial, go to trial. He said, but understand, brother, if they find you guilty for first degree, bro, you facing two joints, you know, death by hanging or natural life. So I was shook.
Right.
You know what I mean? So take this second degree, brother. Take this second degree. They're going to give you life, but it's going to be with the possibility of parole. And you'll be eligible after serving 11 and a half. Now, I'm like 19 at the time because when I went to court, it was 84. Right. So my lawyer saying, yeah, go ahead, man. You can do 11. It ain't about nothing. You can stay on good behavior, yada, 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 yada. You know what I mean? And you'll be out by the time you reach 30 or maybe 31. You'll be in your early 30s. Lord behold, that wasn't the case. You know what I mean? I wound up serving 38 years.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I served most of that. Well, not most, I'm sorry. I served 5.5 of that in maximum security. 23 hours lockdown.
Old max.
Yeah, old max. Old max. You know what I mean? So now you understand. I'm the listening audience. What I said initially, when the brother was like, okay, give me this spiel. Tell us a little something about yourself. It's so much more to this story that I can reveal, but I know time is of the essence. You know what I mean? But I'm here. I'm here, bro. You know what I mean? And it's only by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I'm here. You know what I mean? I want to say this real quick in honor of my mother. She's still living. All right, 91 years old. All right, my mom was coming down Smyrna, kicking them doors in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To see her son, by any means.
Right.
At the door, open this door, kicking. You know what I mean? But my mom played an intricate part in my survival, and me maintaining my sanity.
Right.
All them years. That was my biggest and greatest supporter. And she made me realize that when it comes to a man, you know what I mean? I realized that she made me realize that no man can be a real man without the aid and support of a woman. You know what I mean? So moms caused me to come to that realization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you look real curious, brother. So I see it all in your face. You know what I mean? So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, right. Because I have questions. So you gave us kind of and first off, thank you for being transparent about that. I can imagine that although that some time has passed, that's probably not the easiest thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And especially to walk it down like that. I'm
Yeah.
sure it mentally I'm sure it's not easy to talk about. So thank you.
You're welcome, good brother.
Life before 17, right?
Come on.
What was your home life like? And you honored your mother,
Yeah,
right? And obviously she was riding with you throughout.
absolutely.
What was life like prior to 17 with her, and where was your father in all of this?
Good question, brother. I mean, mom's was single parent. All right. My father, he was brief, let me say that, in my life. I knew who my father were, you know what I mean? And I do believe that, his love was, authentic, you know what I mean? And unconditional, let me say that. Mom played both parents, you know what I mean? She was both in the house. We was raised in the projects, in Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And my mom was on welfare, of course. My father, I didn't really have a father figure in my life that was solid. Because he may stop by the house, hey, pick me up and take me to the store, and that doesn't define,
Yeah.
being a father to a child. But I gotta say this. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. My uncle, my mom's sister's husband from South Philly, he did his best to play that part, that father figure in my life. You know what I mean? He was there for, summer camps. He was there to take us to the parks. He was there to take us to the movies. Me and his son, of course.
Mm-hmm.
He only had one son. All right. And that was Uncle Fred. That was my man. All right. So he definitely, he was there. He was there, to kind of fill in the gaps. You know what I mean? But that's not like having, your biological father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to answer, that question, that's how it all really, that's the way it was. That's the way it was. I mean, not a lot of my friends coming up, had fathers, in their house, in the household.
Right.
You know what I mean? Most of them was raised single parent, female, in the household. But my mom did a hell of a job with me and my sister. It was just me and her, you know what I mean? So my uncle passed, right? And my sister passed, during my incarceration. You know what I mean? That was devastating,
Right.
for me, But like I was saying to Coley before we got on air, let us define, fatherhood, because if that's the topic, you know what I mean? I think it would be good, for us to define, fatherhood, in some. And it got, I know it got a lot of, in the dictionary, you might see 100, definitions, but in some, you know what I mean? You can give me your perspective, or Coley, you can give me your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, fatherhood to me, it ain't a complicated terminology, a complicated thing for me. Fatherhood is doing everything that it is to be a father. You know what I mean? Active. I don't put it like a, you know what I mean, a you know what I mean, real, you know what I mean, how can I put it? I don't put like a, you know what I mean, have like a real concrete definition of what it means to be a father.
So it's about really responsibility. Father being responsible,
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah.
I would say that's
you make kids, and you should be able to take care of your kids.
You should take care of them. You should be there to take care of them, raise them, nurture them.
You know what?
Provide for them.
Let me say this to you real quick.
Yeah.
In the movies, Boys in the Hood, you remember that?
Yeah.
You seen that? I know.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Perfect example of a father. You know what I mean? Representing fatherhood. You know what I mean? Here you had, Lawrence Fishburne. You know what I mean? Had his son come to visit him. You know what I mean? From another state. His son was the boy. What's his name? Cuban Gooding Jr.
Cuban Gooding Jr.
Yes, yeah. See, while the violence in that movies was, it kind of supersede that message. You know what I'm saying? It kind of overwhelmed the message that was, actually given, as far as that part with Lawrence Fishburne and the brother. You know what I mean? But when you reflect, on that particular part, it had a profound effect on us as black men.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially if you were a father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you did have those kinds of fathers, that existed, back then. But in the movies, we also noticed that, what's his name? Ice Cube.
Ice Cube didn't have
his peers, you know what I mean?
Right.
They didn't have that father figure. So I think it would be, that's a good example.
Yeah. Well, and while we're on that, statistically speaking, right? So you seen that movie and with Cuban Gooding Jr., his character being raised by a single father at that point because his mother wasn't there. Right. They said that this is how important fatherhood is, right? Statistically, a child in a single father household will do nearly as well as a child in a two-parent household.
Okay.
But a child in a single mother household will not.
Wow. Wow, that's deep.
That's that. You know what I mean? When we're talking about the importance and the impacts that fathers have on lives.
Absolutely. So now me not having children, you know what I mean? I'm inexperienced. Let me say that when it comes to actually being a father.
Yeah.
To a child, but I have the what's the word I'm looking for? I have the potential. Let me say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To father, to provide fatherhood to a child if I had that opportunity.
Right.
If I had that opportunity, you know what I mean? Because I know what it is to be a man. You understand what I'm saying? And I know the process, the transitional process that you have to go through, from boyhood to manhood. I read a lot of good books during my incarceration. One brother I can recall on that did a good job, distributing, information on this topic. It was Dr. Jawanja Kandufa. He wrote Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, man. Wow, that brother. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes, sir.
I got to check that out.
Yes, sir. Countering Conspiracy. Yeah, Dr. Jawanja Kandufa. Yes, sir. But I wanted to say this too, man, because I think what I'm about to say is in conjunction, with this topic, because a lot of us unfortunately missing proper, fatherhood in our lives, and as a result, that kind of, causes it causes us to be stagnant, and causes us to, to be vulnerable, what I mean, and not really see the value of what it is to be a father. Like I always quote, a saying from the Bible. It's a scripture in the Bible that says, I think it was Paul that said it. He says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish thoughts. You know what I mean? So when we talk about fatherhood, that wisdom right there, is something that I think that, we sometimes we take for granted, that we don't need to really evaluate that for what it is, the message in that. You know what I mean? Because unfortunately with me, my transitional process from boyhood to manhood was facilitated in prison. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you look at somebody in that situation, you know what I mean, cause and effect, as we call it, you have to look at it from that perspective to be realistic. You know what I mean? Because I mean, like I said, I've been in prison, almost 4 decades, you know what I mean? And the only thing I knew about how to be a man, you know what I mean, is to stand up, and don't allow nobody to disrespect you, don't allow nobody to violate you, you know what I mean?
So in essence, you saying you felt like you was pretty much displaying by standing up. I mean, you felt like you was displaying what it is that a man do. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Man,
exactly.
yeah.
Which is a false, perception. You know what I mean? It's a damaged perception, that unfortunately I took on.
Yeah.
And it was part of the culture, and so that affect my growth.
Right.
Deeply affected my growth. So like I was saying, in conjunction with we talking about fatherhood, you know what I mean? We have to also understand the transitional aspect of, developing, evolving from a boy, a child, you know what I mean, to a teenager, and then adult.
Right.
How do you think your transition from a boy to a man would have been different if you had an active father during that time period?
Oh man, listen, bro, I'm almost certain, that it would have been different for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because your father, when you look at your father, you look at yourself. So if your father is illustrating, that which defines a father, which is good character, integrity, responsibility, things like that. You know what I mean? If like the brother said earlier, Coley, about the statistics shows, you see what I'm saying? When the father is actually active in the household with his children, it gives a much deeper, impact. It has a much deeper impact on the child or children, than the mother. You know what I mean? Mom's always gonna be there as for backbone. You understand what I'm saying? Mom's is the head of the household, and as it's said that your first lesson comes from your mother, you know what I mean, when you come out of the womb. But
you ain't gonna have no women jumping on me. I thought you just said that. I thought he just said that. What did he just say?
The first lesson.
No. Before that, you not gonna have no women jumping on me. Let me explain. Let me say.
Nah, I'm not implying that. But nah, brother, we definitely need to understand the distinction.
Yeah.
And there's a balance, right?
You know,
Yeah.
man? Absolutely, absolutely,
Both
man.
parents play
And
a
I'm
role.
looking at you, good brother. You know what I mean? Even though your father, right? He was on that plantation with me. You know what I'm saying? But alhamdulillah, he was able to come out here, and reestablish and rebuild, his relationship with you. So you evidence, what I mean, of how important fatherhood is, and it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And you asked a good question. And I've been sitting here thinking about it the entire time. Like, what does fatherhood mean? I think it depends on how the child sees it. And let me explain that, right? Because some people have father figures in their life, and they can like attach to that, and they can go, and the sky's the limit, right? And then other children may have that same father figure type person around in supporting roles, but they want their dad. And
That's right.
And when that void is there, sometimes it can turn into a just like a sad and hurt space that this person carries with them throughout their life, and it almost like marks them. Like you can almost like kind of tell like how like they might have had the world, right? But they wanted their dad.
Yeah.
Some people can attach to other people and be good, but when you don't have your dad there,
natural. Yeah.
your natural dad, it's something missing.
Absolutely.
Man.
It says something to you. It says something to you. When you don't have somebody doesn't have their biological father, particularly if their father is deceased or something like that, that's a different thing. But when you out here, you're out here and you a child. Hell, not even a child. I know some, adults. I mean, your father is, this nigga live around the corner. You know what I mean? He live around the corner. And I ain't, I don't see him. He don't come, It's just, it stops being about so much about I think the way we process it is we start looking at ourselves more. You know what I mean? It's like, what is it about me? Well, this person doesn't want to be involved with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Introspection.
Yeah, man.
But let me say this, man. It's interesting that we're talking about this topic because, like I was telling you earlier, I participated in this reentry event in Newark, right? And Sylvester Shockley. Brother, you got to get this tape. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but he did a play with this sister named Terry. She's from Henrietta reentry joint.
Henrietta Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Henrietta. Anyway, fast forward. I thought that sister was his daughter, brother. They did a podcast like this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And she played his daughter, all right? And she was like, she was stressing over the fact that he was in prison and he went back and forth to prison, like, 3 times, he said. She said, you entered prison 3 times. And, that hurt her. Yeah. Because he wasn't there for her, for birthdays, graduations. She brought all that in there. And then Shockley been being down 30 years, all right? He thought that emotionally, those patches, those holes, rather, were patched up. You know what I mean? Because she was coming to see him, talking to him on the phone. So his question to her is, why you never revealed this to me when I was inside? And you know what she said? She said, Dad, you was already in like a situation, like a dark hole. You was already in a, like a negative type situation. Yeah. So I didn't want to lay this on you in there. You know what I mean? Because, I wouldn't understand. Or what I'm trying to say is, her whole disposition was the trauma behind this. You know what I mean? I was afraid that if I laid all this on you at the time, it had just made your situation worse than what it was. So it was heavy. It was heavy, dog. You know what I mean? Like, she did a hell of a job playing his daughter and really laying everything out, to him, about being disappointed that he wasn't there for her as well as the family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's ironic. It's ironic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a coincidence that we here talking about that, and I just witnessed that, that podcast with that brother. But it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. He got, the link and all that.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
Yeah. I think with social media nowadays, man, I think that it hurts even more when the father's missing, but he's still alive and he's still present, he's still active.
Absolutely.
Because I know people who watch their dad on social media engage with their other children and don't engage with that particular child. You know what that does to a person,
that's
man?
Devastating.
It's
I
sick.
can only imagine.
It's traumatizing.
It's sinister.
Yeah.
It is, right? Because even if you rectify the situation later on down the line, it's still a period of time where it's like, why would you do that to me?
Yeah.
And you can't really plead ignorance. Like, having a child is one thing. Once you know, you can't unknow that you have a child unless you have some sort of brain damage or somebody knocked you in your head and then you completely forgot amnesia. Then we can make medical exceptions.
Yeah,
right.
But I ain't never heard of no medical exception. What I've seen is people just having disregard for their children's feelings. Like, fatherhood is like a lifelong thing.
Yeah,
it's a lifelong thing. If dad goes missing at any point, whether or not the child chooses to acknowledge it, it still hurts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's trauma. It's traumatizing.
It's traumatizing.
Yeah.
A lot of people think you get to 18, 19, 20, and then it's like, like go and do your thing type thing. And to a degree it is, right? Because everybody has to find their own. But it's like, nah, it's still like check-ins. It's still it's a lifelong thing, man.
It is,
I think
man.
we push
long term.
Society kind of, in my opinion, pushes this thing where it's like 18, you grown, you off, and that's what the culture pushes. But that's not really what it is.
Yeah,
it's active engagement throughout your entire life. Like, it's a lifelong thing.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this. I say this often. I've said it before, and I keep saying it. Like, for me, after doing my, serving my time, did 14 years, came home and connected with my son at 16 years old. And over the years, building our relationship and coming to find out, so many things, is DNA, you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that he's interested in. We got a lot of the same interests, you know what I mean? Like, we pursue things. We got, a lot of similarities and things of that nature. But what was most importantly to me was, once we started building, restoring our relationship, it was how much I got from him, as a father. Because, this is my only child.
Oh, I didn't know that, good brother.
Yeah. So this is my only child. And when, building a relationship, going back and building our relationship together. And like I said, it gave so much to me, and it helps you. I don't think that you can really, as a father, I don't think the person can really get to the place where they at, or how can I say, achieve a high. I ain't gonna say a higher level, but just having a good being a father. I don't think that you can, get to. I feel like I'm mumbling around here, but the point I'm getting at, damn it, is
you all right?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that you can't even self-actualize yourself as being a father without having engagement with your kids and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I said, I speak about him about Amar as like when we started hanging, like, because when I came home, once I got myself situated a little bit, you know what I mean? I got an apartment, and he moved in with me. Okay. You know what I mean? 16 in high school, 16, 17 years old, high school, finishing up high school stuff. We was together, and we used to do things, you know what I mean? It's me and him, go out and do things and have fun. And then over time, struggle like a motherfucker, because, you know what I mean? It was tight over there, brother. It was tight. But after
we didn't have no TV for a while.
We didn't have a TV.
I'm telling the listeners.
Yeah, why you gonna say that?
I'm speaking my truth.
Why you gonna say that out loud, bro? Nah, we didn't. We ain't had no TV. And then we got a little TV. We got a little TV, remember? And we set it on that.
So what year was that, good brother?
That was
2009.
Yeah,
2009.
And how old was you then?
17.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the point I was making was this, is that I couldn't be my best self without having a relationship with my son and what it is that it enhancements and the relationship and what he brought out in me.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? From his character, you know what I mean? From who he is as an individual, what he has brought out in me is enhanced and enriched my life so much. So I'm going to look right in the camera and say this one.
Alhamdulillah.
Look straight into the camera and say this, yo. If you are a father and you choose not to be in your child's life, you losing out on who you can be as a man.
Wow.
That was deep, too.
Yeah.
That's a clip.
Yeah.
It's real, though.
Absolutely.
It's real.
It's real. It's
I wouldn't be the
facts.
man that I am today if I ain't had a relationship that I got with my son. You feel me?
Absolutely.
I would not. I wouldn't.
And I'm pretty sure the feeling is mutual, good brother.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I got another question. Can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
How did you feel after getting that life bit down there, being 19 years old, and having an 18-month bit? Because 18 months, you would have been down there in, what, 6 months back then?
18
Under the old
months?
law?
Yeah, about a year.
About a year.
Yeah, about a year.
How did that impact you, man?
When I was sentenced, I was already in maximum security, MSU, and locked in a cell.
Yeah.
23 hours a day. The way I felt, brother, you know, I was devastated, of course, devastated. Like, but I was around some soldiers too.
Yeah.
You know, and you know them soldiers are.
Yeah.
You know, Tyan, you know, Frat, you know, Soko came through, you know, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And these guys already, you know, did time. They had already had, like, at that time anyway, like close to 20 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of like, you know, inspired me, you know what I mean, to, you know, to be strong.
Yeah.
Stay focused.
Yeah.
And just keep pushing.
That's what's up.
You know, keep pushing. Yeah. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Like you said, the struggle.
The
struggle was real. And I'm going to tell you, the whole time when I was over max, I did 5.5 years in max. That whole experience was traumatizing as well. You know, all, you know, visits, closed visits. You know what I mean? When I say closed visits, I mean you weren't allowed to make contact with your friends or your loved ones or family or nothing. You had to see your visits through behind the glass.
Right.
All right, so that went on with me for like 5.5 years. And I really, you know, after I was sentenced, I became real defiant.
Meaning about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I had so many disciplinary infractions, you know what I mean, that they really considered me, you know, at that time, like, crazy, like, you know, but I never submitted to medication. I never, you know what I mean, I never got weak to the point where, you know what I mean, they had to, you know, you remember how they used to
they put
restrain,
you on the cup.
restrain, I'm talking about literally
physically
restrain,
yeah,
you know, inmates and hit them with thorns in.
Yeah.
So I had enough sense to say, you know, back up, like, oh, slow your roll, you know.
You looking surprised at that?
Huh?
Yeah.
You looking surprised at that?
I mean, I don't know what.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take y'all word for it. I've never been.
Yeah, but you know, to answer your question, good brother, you know, like I had to deal with it, man, and then I'm gonna say, of course, you know, my faith, you know, Islam,
Right.
you know, played an intricate part in me being humble, eventually, you know, and also patience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, caused me to, you know, really sit back and then, you know, do some introspection, and I always remembered the ayat in the Quran that says Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never put or place a burden on us that we cannot bear, you know. So that was an inspiration, you know, for me, you know, as well.
How long you been home?
I've been home since 2019. Brother.
2019?
Yes,
Been that long?
Yeah, man, coming up on 5 years, brother.
Wow.
And I have to, you know, I would be remiss before we depart. I have to share with you, and the listening audience, my success, my achievements. You know, since being home, I've been very, very fortunate, blessed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With so many opportunities out here, you know, to make
Nice.
me, man, make me the person who I am now, and to be successful and productive, you know, in the community. You know, what I'm doing gives me the opportunity to get back,
Right.
you know, to, you know what I mean, the community.
Right.
And, you know, let me say, fast forward, I don't want to, you know, I just want to sum it up. You know, when I got out 2019, my boy here, KO, and all the brothers came down to see me at the Harriet Tubman Safe House re-entry joint. And that's where my transition, you know, from the Plumber Center to there, that's where it happened, gradually,
Right.
you know, coming back out.
Yeah.
This is in 2019, you know, and I was working. My man got me a job working for these Mexican dudes, and that was too much for me. In the warehouse, they Mexicans, they work ethics, their work ethics, man. No offense to, you know what I mean, the Mexicans, because I commend you. You know, y'all work your ass off, you know. But I couldn't, you know. So, my man Corey Priest, who now works for Department of Justice, he got me a job working for social services.
Right.
You know what I mean? He got me first start off working in a cafe at the Herms Holloway's campus on 13. It was a twofold type situation. It was a job, and then it gave me the opportunity to get my culinary safe serve certificate.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, that was one of the highlights.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
You know, my achievements.
That's what's up.
And then real quick, from there, I took off, man. I became a social services reentry case manager. And, you know, now I'm currently working as a CWA, which means Community Well-Being Ambassador for Network Connect.
Nice.
And I'm also out in the streets with Women's and Street Team, you know, trying to diffuse some stuff, you know,
Right.
in the hood, you know. So, yeah, man, like, I'm blessed, man.
That's what's
I'm
up.
blessed.
Good.
Alhamdulillah, man.
Happy to hear that, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You got any more? What you looking at me all crazy for? You got any more questions for anything what you want to say?
Nah.
Dawud?
Yeah.
Woo.
You got some questions, brother. I now understood. Yeah, I understand you.
You know, here.
You very inquisitive.
Yeah, I am. I'm
Yes,
very
And-
inquisitive. Well, no, in the right way. I'm inquisitive.
In the right way. Yes,
yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Very inquisitive one. I mind my business. You know, if it don't pertain to me, but
Right.
I am an inquisitive brother. You know, in some ways. But I don't have a whole lot of questions. We can talk for hours. You know what I'm saying? We can talk for hours. I don't, you know. So I don't want to do that.
You don't want to bombard the listening audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With all these stories.
Yeah.
You know, but let me say that I'm a firm believer that you know, your story could be used as an inspiration. It could be used as a means of empowerment.
Right.
You know, and we all have stories.
Yes.
You know, so it's how you know, how you define your story, how you tell your story. You know what I mean? And you want to be transparent.
Yeah.
You know, like people, you know, when they listen to you, they were like, okay, like who's this guy? Like, okay, like I hear you, but I'm not hearing some other stuff. You know what I mean? So, not too transparent, but you want to, you know what I mean, be straight. You know what I mean? Like the
yeah.
questions that you ask me as well as, you know,
Yeah.
brother, good questions. Good questions, and it gives.
I know you ain't trying to tell me how to do my podcast.
Is
that what he trying to do?
Nah,
I'm messing with you.
Nah,
I'm messing with
but
you.
nah, man. Yeah, stories are meant to be told.
Yeah.
And they could be used definitely as an inspiration and as a means of
Yeah.
For sure.
empowering people, man. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Imagine if you had Nelson Mandela or Malcolm X right here, somebody like that.
Yeah.
That you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, and that's how Malcolm started his book, The Autobiography of Malcolm. See, Malcolm didn't write the book. It was
Alex
the
Haley.
late Mr. Alex Haley.
Right.
He did this here. You know, he sat down, put the tape on there, and Malcolm just started running it.
Running.
You know what I mean? And that book is now like the poster child for the average or typical African American male
Going through the prison
in
system.
America. Yeah, man.
all
Because
that.
Malcolm was a mess. He was a mess, you know. But, you know, Malcolm, to me, real quick, his story.
You keep saying
It's
real
a-
quick.
I got it. This is it, right?
I'll
But
mess
Malcolm, I do believe the listening audience, you know, they deserve to know this aspect of Malcolm X, also known as Malcolm Shabazz, Il Shabazz. Let me put clarity on that. Malcolm, like I said, he was a poster child, you know what I mean, for most African American males that's in the streets, you know, real heavy.
Yeah.
This brother, when you look at his lifestyle, how, you know, he was a pimp, you know, he was a hustler, he was running numbers, he was doing everything under the sun, you know what I mean? But when he went to prison, you know, he met some brothers in the Nation of Islam, you know, and that gave him an opportunity, you know, to do something good, something, you know, better, you know, with his life. You know what I mean? And I tell people what I get out of that is, you know, when we go through like adversities in life, you know, we go through hardship, go through struggle, pain, and all that. The purpose, you know, is to elevate you. You know, when you go through this in life, you know, it forces you and teaches you to focus.
Yeah.
You know, on the difficulties, you know, in your life, and it is by overcoming our difficulties that we improve, you know, ourselves and our character.
Right. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you. Thank you for coming, coming to share your story with us,
guns, man.
sharing
Pull the
everything.
guns out, man. I always pull the guns out, man.
Nah,
you know
but
what I mean?
seriously,
Blast
we familiar, so we joke around, but I'm serious. Thank you for sharing your story, man. Thank you for being vulnerable with us. Thank you for helping us allow to continue to do our message on this podcast that we do with Missing Dad. And with that,
It was an honor.
thank you, brother.
It was an honor, good brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, man.
I'm gonna shake your hand despite the Ravens gear.
It's
Still all
Yeah,
love.
but of course, to be continued.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean?
To be continued,
man.
man.
Whenever, you know, y'all need a brother to come over here and talk your head off or listen. You know what I mean? Yeah, man. Definitely don't hesitate to call if I'm available. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
saw.
inshallah.
Thank you, bro.
Inshallah.
Yeah, and with that, I'm your co-host, Coley Harris.
I'm the other co-host, Amar Melton.
Thank you for listening, Missing Dad.
And before we go, we're on Instagram and TikTok now.
Instagram and TikTok.
At Missing Dad Podcast. Once again, that's at Missing Dad Podcast. So shoot us a follow, and you can also follow us on YouTube. It's under our Out of the Ashes channel. The link will be in the show notes, depending on where you're listening. But you can find link in bio, show notes, whatever. Not hard to find, and share it with a friend. So
Power to the people.
Thank you for listening to Missing Dad.